Welcome back, Makers Bar audience. It's your boy Seth Garu Baxter with Makers Bar, where we're creating 1 million leaders today for tomorrow. I am extremely honored and pleased. I can't tell you guys enough. The other day, I had the pleasure, the distinct honor of attending a pre-Oscar soiree. And oftentimes you get the opportunity to meet people that you know you're going to see again. Well, a small fun fact for your boy Garu. I have a strong appreciation for opera. My dad introduced me to it years ago. And I had the opportunity to meet this beautiful international classical singer from Nigeria, American now in America, but internationally known for her beautiful voice. I was blown away by not only her warmth, her spirit, and her talent. Now, it looks today like you might be seeing a young lady with green hair and glasses because she's a wild card, but when you have heard her voice, you will be captivated. When you have heard her sing, her soprano voice itself will mesmerize you. I'm extremely pleased to bring to the Makers Bar audience Abiodun Koya. Please help me welcome her. Now, some of the people who are getting to know her get to call her Abby. Some of us get to call her Abby. So exactly. We're going to see what she likes to go by. Abiodun Koya, please, thank you. Accept our humble welcome to our Makers Bar audience. How are you today?
I'm wonderful. This is so fabulous. I'm excited and thrilled to be on this interview with you, really.
I thank you so much for joining us. We have been on the lookout for, well, in my particular show, we continue to interview artists and their gifts, and you are one of the artists I want to expose to other people. So I'm so glad you're thrilled. I'm particularly thrilled to have you here with us today.
Oh my goodness! Thank you so much, and thank you for having me. I'm honored. I'm excited. I can't wait to chat with you. I can't wait to dig in further with you because the first day we met, we were like we were like two pigeons.
We were.
we were like two pigeons. We just chatted away, and oh my goodness, I loved it. So I'm looking forward to this.
I am too. So for those who don't know, as I mentioned, some of us call her Abby. Are you okay with us referring to you as Abby during this interview?
Only friends call me Abby. Only friends call me Abby. But because of you. I'm going to make it easy. I'm going to make it easy. Let's go by Abby.
But professionally, and you are an international classical singer, so I do want them to hear your full name. And why don't you start with your full name and your origins and your beginning, and what led you up to today?
Yes, so my name is Abiodun Koya. Abiodun means born in a festive period. And, I think globally, the two major festive periods are Christmas and New Year's Day. And so I was born around Christmas, and hence why I have that name, Abiodun. So anytime you see or meet someone that bears Abiodun, it means they were born around Christmas or New Year.
Yeah. Oh, good to know.
Yes. So that's the origin of my name. I'm Nigerian, proudly of the Yoruba tribe. And I was born and raised in Nigeria, and I came to the United States when I was 20 plus years old. I came across classical music because my dad had studied at Howard back in those days, and from Howard he went on to study in England. This was before I was born, right? And I'd like to mention at this juncture that I'm the last. Some people like to call it a baby of the family. I'm not a baby. I'm a diva.
That you are.
But we get the point. I came last. Yes. And so my dad came back home with all those vinyl records, because that's what I grew up on, those black vinyl records. And years later, I was born, and out of the five children that my parents, had at that time, I was the only one that sort of responded in a genuine, truthful, organic way with curiosity to classical music. And even before I could speak, classical music was sort of my language. It was my friend. It was my first love. It was my pardon me to say it this way. It was in my way as a kid, my toy. When you're a kid, you have a toy, to play with. So of course, classical music is not tangible, but you understand the point. So when you have a favorite toy, you want it around you all the time. You want to play with it. So I am likening classical music to my toy back then as a child, because I wanted to be around it. I loved it, and so that was my first music. I mean, that was my first language, even before I could talk. Classical music was my companion as well. And I knew at the age of 6 that I wanted to be a singer. I had started writing little lines. I had started my songwriting exercises at the age of 6. I loved the art of creating. I would also draw. I would also like any other girl, you had dolls that you played with growing up, and I genuinely delighted in designing dresses for my doll. I just I was I think at age 6, it's safe to say I was a creative designer, or creative director, because even and look at me, I have I have a green I have a
I know.
green.
It's not. And you know what? The thing is, this tells people it's not what you would expect from a beautiful classical singer. See green hair and the glasses,
It's
that shows
not.
your
It's
vibrancy and
not.
your
But
exuberance.
I had always wanted to dictate what my doll should wear or look like. I always had this vision in my 6-year-old mind. How most girls would want it to be like a ponytail or parted in two ways, but I wanted to experiment with my doll's hair. I wanted to put pink sprinkles. Just I was just curious. What if we did it this way? What if we did it that way? Even at that young age, my mind was very highly curious and inquisitive. I asked my parents questions. I bored them to death with questions advanced for my age. And I remember just seeing my parents go, "Oh, okay, yeah, Abiodun, yes, this and that." So I've always been an interesting child growing up, but I already knew my path from a very young age. I indicated to my dad that I wanted a violin, even though I didn't. I mean, again, this is like growing up in the 80s in Nigeria. It's not even like what you said earlier. It's not even common in Black America,
Absolutely.
families, let alone all the way in the motherland. And I wasn't even born. I didn't grow up in a city in Nigeria. I grew up in a small town. I grew up in a very small town. We had chickens in the back. We had chickens in the backyard. We had a small plantation and all that stuff. So, but I wanted a violin. I wanted music. I wanted more. Whenever I heard any soprano singing, I would imagine what they look like. I would give them a hair color in my 6-year-old mind, even younger than that. I would wonder what their name was. It was just very um interesting. But the classical music took me to different places, took my mind, took it's important that I stress that classical music took my mind to
Mm.
a whole new level. It took my mind to different universes, literally. I remember, and my imagination, and it's still with me till today, but when I was younger, my imagination was whew, was something. It was highly, highly powerful. I remember that I would sit and I wouldn't want to be bothered when listening to classical music. I would not want anybody to come near me. Don't even offer me food. Don't tell me dinner or lunch was ready. I would throw tantrums. Like I didn't want to be bothered. But and this is because I was already in my world, imagining. So each note that the orchestra played or the vocalist sang, I gave it an animation character in my head. It was either a mouse, a monkey, an elephant, a giraffe. And mentally, I would imagine them coming together in a symphonic way of in form of pictures and a movie slide. But all of this played in my head. And it wasn't until when I grew up that I realized what was going on in my mind back then. So I think I'd like to give credits to classical music for um, expanding my imaginative abilities, expanding my mind. It just took me on a journey, that I loved as a kid. And so, yes.
So what drew you to classical music?
My father played it 24/7, so it was a language and that thing that bonded me and my father. I was a daddy's girl and I'm still a daddy's girl. um but my father played a major role, with classical music, because if he hadn't studied abroad, if he hadn't brought them back to Nigeria with him when he finished with his studies, I would not have had the opportunity to be where I am today. Imagine a girl like me growing up with that talent, but minus the resources of classical music. You know what I mean? Because if my father didn't play that music, if I wasn't exposed to that, I think that talent would have been buried. I probably would have been. Let me tell you, if I wasn't a singer, I probably would be an astronaut.
I don't mean to laugh. Abby, I don't mean to laugh. I just didn't expect
Hmm.
that.
Or um, I would have been a high-ranking military official. I was in the military. I was in the U.S. Navy for a tiny second, by the way. We're not going to talk about that. No. but but
Okay.
I was, because I also love music and military. So I think if I wasn't so consumed with my passion for music, if I didn't have that talent, I would be, in the military, and I would be really good at it. I'll be good at it, or be an astronaut, be work in the space industry. Yeah.
Well, I'm just so curious. I I've watched some of your interviews, and some of your life has been so expansive and adventurous. Military is one of the ones that normally people would not expect that a classical singer would have experienced the military, and how that can impact the path that you took to go into classical music. So, how did that road turn? You were in the military and then you went into music. Where do those timelines interact?
I was always in the music, and even when I came to the United States while I was in college, I was singing. And my school president actually sort of discovered me, um, in a way, and he gave me opportunities to sing at major school events. I even sang at my commencement. Hello,
Incredible.
I sang "Climb Every Mountain" from The Sound of Music at my commencement, and that was the first biggest crowd ever because it was 16,500 people.
Incredible. Incredible.
Yes, yes. So that was that. But the school president heard about me because my classmate went and snitched on me to him, and they were like, "Oh my God, there's this African girl that can sing your brains off, Mr. President." He was like, "Sing my brains off?" And she's African. I want to meet her. And he didn't believe my classmates, and so he requested for me to stop by his office, and the rest is history. And he gave me the first chance to sing, to get paid, and that was amazing. And after that, I started singing at embassies, and I had learned the Star Spangled Banner. So that's another story. When I got to this country, I was mesmerized by the United States. I was mesmerized at the fact that you can come from another country as an immigrant and be whoever you want to be in the United States. And I said, wow, a country so accommodating, how can I give it a gift? How can I? I'm that kind of a person. I think differently, Of course, the country, it's a country. It's not a human being that you can present a gift to. But I knew deep inside of me that there was something I could do to give the United States of America a gift. And guess what idea came to me
What's that?
as a gift to America?
What's that?
Learning the Star Spangled Banner as a foreigner. And that was a perfect gift in my mind for the United States. And I said, oh, OMG, I am totally going to learn the Star Spangled Banner. And we're talking about like the early 2000s, right? And I went and I thought, because in Nigeria, people and everybody, we're asked to learn the Nigerian national anthem. So I thought, if you stopped anybody, they can sing the anthem for you, right? In Nigeria. So I thought it was the same in the US. And I stopped about 5 or 6 people, because then you didn't have YouTube, you didn't have Spotify, all these platforms.
Yeah, it was different.
It was different. So I wanted to do it the old school way. I will give you, you sing to my tape recorder and I will learn it from there. And guess what? The first 5 people I went to didn't even know the Star Spangled Banner. And they were like, child, I can't even help you. I don't even know what that is. I don't know it. And I was surprised. But anyway, I didn't let that stop me. And finally, I went to my aunt, who's a professor. And I said, Auntie, I'm trying to learn the Star Spangled Banner. Can you buy me a CD? Can you order the CD for me? And so she ordered the CD. And that's how I learned the Star Spangled Banner. Check this out. See, one thing about life, and especially the universe, when the universe wants to humble you, when the universe wants to test you, it's going to see if you're willing to give out first before you can be given. Little did I know that me learning the Star Spangled Banner was going to blow the doors right open for me. I did not know that was what was going to launch my career for me in Washington, D.C., because I was in D.C. And so I think 4 or 5 months after I had learned the Star Spangled Banner, the Nigerian embassy came calling. They wanted me to sing just the Nigerian anthem for the National Day, for the Independence Day Gala. And I remember telling the ambassador that, oh my gosh, Mr. Ambassador, let me also sing the Star Spangled Banner. I just finished working on it. I know how to sing it. Yakety, 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 yada, yada, yada. I ran my mouth. And he was like, oh, no, you can't sing. It's a hard song to sing. I said, trust me. I've worked hard on this. I've put in a lot of work. Finally, he trusted me. And on the day of the event, I was standing in front of 800 people to sing both the Nigerian anthem and the American anthem at the opening. And guess what? Amongst the 800, well, almost 1,000 people actually, amongst the 1,000 people that were present were senators, American Congress members, right? Months later, after that reception at the Nigerian embassy, they called the ambassador and they said, Mr. Ambassador, that young lady that sang the American anthem, we're having a rally, at the Capitol Hill. Can you send her to us? We would like for her to say, we liked the way she sang the American anthem. we would like for her to sing at, the anthem at our rally or event, something political event they were having. And the ambassador said, "Oh yes, I'm sure she'll be very delighted." Bear in mind, I was still in college. So, and Mr. Ambassador said, "Oh, I bet she would even sing it for free too." And the rest is history. And from there, my career took off. And of course, I went on to sing at the White House, and I became so. If there was any event going on and a formal official event going on, and they needed the Star Spangled Banner to be performed in Washington D.C., I became the go-to girl. It was my
Wait, so
signature.
can we backtrack just a little bit? So you sang for President Obama's during his term, correct?
I sang for George Bush at the Black History Month. I sang once at the White House
Wow.
at the Black History Month. It was a Black History Month event at the White House. Then I sang for Obama outside the White House at an AME church. Um, um, yes, it was an AME church, and he was, in the congregation. He was on the front row, and I was a soloist that was hired by the church, to sing, and so that was my only performance for Obama.
But I guess it would have been better for me to say in front of the White House. You've had two performances for White House.
Yes, yes, one inside and one outside.
Now, I've had the privilege that some of our viewers might not have had in seeing some of your interviews. What would you say out of the interviews I've seen? I know my personal favorite. What's your personal favorite time in all your public performances, performing in front of who and where?
Goodness, I've had amazing stories and amazing and wonderful experiences. The most recent one was, I've had, like I said, many to choose from, but I'd like to highlight two. One is from way back when I started singing, and the other was as of 2 years ago when I was singing for human rights activist Zenona Clayton in downtown Atlanta. It was the unveiling of her statue, and she was the first woman to have her statue erected in downtown Atlanta. And it
Mm.
was an outdoor event. The mayor was there, like who is who, and I sang. That reminds me, I need to call her. And I call her Queen Mother. She's in her mid 90s, FYI, but she's just an amazing soul. So singing, at that historical event was amazing. And then going back to when I first started, I think this was like my first or second year of singing. I was still in college, and I was asked to come sing at a school event for kids. And I remember that it was like an evening event. So, and I took a train. It was a long day. I had classes, wouldn't have time to eat. So I took the train to the school. And when I got to the school, I was starving, and I'm like, "There's no way I'm gonna be able to sing in this empty stomach. I need to take something. I don't care what it is." And I wasn't thinking very well. And then I drank 2 cans of soda. I don't want to mention the brand.
Probably
And
better not to.
exactly, now I know better not to drink soda before any performance. And this story stands out because it was so interesting. And so about 20 minutes later, they called me on stage to come perform. And I had just started like my like the first 2 lines of singing, and I started burping.
While you were singing?
I
Oh boy.
Now you know why. I had to tell you the story. And the poor kids sat on the floor. They all sat in a semicircle around me, and they were all like, and I was just burping right all over. I'm like, oh my, oh. And I remember the kids looking at
wait.
me with
I
horror.
must ask you, hold on. I gotta ask you. So were you all divaed out? You had your beautiful gown on, you were all in
This
presentation,
was no,
and
no,
then all of
no,
a
no,
sudden you were
no.
like burr, burr.
No, no, I wasn't divaed out because this was like the very like the early stages. There's nothing like diva. There's nothing like beautiful gowns or elaborate gowns.
Yes.
Bear in mind, I was still in college. You know, I
Oh
was
yes,
like
yes.
in my second year, so you know, I wasn't into big gowns then, and even if I was, I wouldn't have the resources to be able to do all that flamboyant stuff, right? So it was just some gown that I tucked in because I knew I was going to go to that event after my classes, right? So I brought in some clothes, put it in, yeah, took off, and and I wasn't all divaed out. Trust me, I was like, nerd looking like a student, and I just like burped. It wouldn't stop. I was like, oh my god, I can't, and it's not stopping. I can't stop myself. It was just coming. Like it was 2 cans of soda, So I was in for it. I would never forget that story. And you should have seen the horror on the kids'
I
faces,
can only imagine.
So but I got through it, and I was like, excuse me, I'm so so sorry. But it was part of the humble beginnings, for me. And
No,
this was
tell us.
before White House, before anything, any glamorous event or performance.
No, tell us. Even with that as one of your entries into this, when your career began blossoming, what was the highlight of your career?
The highlight of my career was, of course, singing at the White House. Oh, and I forgot to mention, I actually also sang for Bush outside the White House at a gala event, that had about 1,500 people in it. And so that was an amazing, outstanding moment. There was a time I sang at the National Democratic Convention event. And then there was a time I sang at the inauguration of the Nigerian president, you know, basically singing for presidents too. And also singing for orphans, because I have my nonprofit. And so I would travel to Africa from time to time. I love being around underprivileged children, orphans, and children with poor, parents.
Tell
Um,
us about your nonprofit, if you don't mind me delving into that a little bit. Tell us
no,
about your
I
nonprofit.
don't mind. I don't mind. So my nonprofit is a music and arts nonprofit, and in addition to that, um, we support incarcerated women who are currently serving time in Africa. I've particularly only done works with women in Nigerian prisons. And I would go to them, of course, bearing gifts, hygiene products, sanitary towels, whatever, toothpaste, things that, and food, I would have like catered food. They allowed that to be brought in, and so I also at a point partnered with Coca-Cola Nigeria to give some of these women Coke products to sell, as to make them small business owners once they get out, just till while they're in the transitional phase, just for them till when they get themselves together. So I did that, and I also fight for them to get like a small capital loan, interest free loans for them to start small businesses so they don't go back into the old pattern or the kind of toxic cycle that got them to where they are in the first place. And then moving on, we help, we support orphanages a lot. And then we go to schools where kids have their actual parents that go from home to school and back to home, so they're not in an orphanage. So we give scholarships to poor girls, especially girls who are disadvantaged because their parents cannot really afford to give them quality education. But one thing that's also very important to me is not just to give donations or funds or gifts. It's also important for me to plant seeds of conversations with them, motivational speeches, opening their eyes, basically by engaging in conversations with them. It's good to unlock the mentality of these young girls at such a young age, unlock it and instill confidence, instill peace, instill positivity, instill hope, instill courage and strength here. Because if that's missing, and they keep getting all these gifts and resources, if the mental faculty is not balanced, is not well adjusted, is not properly suited and formed, because again, education only doesn't really also do it. Emotional intelligence is not taught in schools. Most schools, I don't want to speak for, because I've not been to all schools, but I in most schools, emotional intelligence is not taught. Confidence, strength, courage, they're not taught in schools. So that's one of the things I bring in as well. When I'm bringing those gifts and those scholarships, I'm also bringing emotional intelligence. I'm also instilling hope, courage, strength to them, because life is not for the faint-hearted. Life is not
you
for the
mentioned that when
faint.
we were talking.
Is not for the
Yes.
faint-hearted. So not to scare them, but I'm not going to tell them life is it's terrible. But I can also provide them with tools and words to empower them for when they are ready to cross that bridge.
I got to say, one of the things that struck me is that there are not, and I saw one of the interviews in looking into your background as far as your singing and your experience. Nigeria doesn't have a large experience with opera. And that was one of the things that touched my heart, that you mentioned you enjoy singing in your native tongue. And that was very heartwarming to me. And I think it was very much innovative. And that's what we at Makers Bar hope to be able to do. And I found that so fascinating that you felt it was very important that some of the great classics of opera, which some people know of my fans, or some people who are close to me know my love for opera, but you felt it was very important to be able to sing some of the classics, translating them into your native tongue. What brought that about?
Thank you very kindly. First and
Absolutely.
foremost, if you look at the languages present in classical music, in opera, um, you're not going to find an African language. Rather, you'll find German, Italian, Latin, French, occasionally with art songs, English, right? You wonder, where's the representation of Africa in this?
It struck me as such a real thought. And I was so glad you mentioned that in your interviews. It was two interviews I saw you that you mentioned that was very important to you.
Yeah, absolutely important. And one of the things I take pride in is that I take pride in my culture, in my heritage. Um, I'm also able to speak. I still speak my language, my local dialect. I speak it, which is Yoruba. I also even speak Ijebu, which is even a bit stronger than the Yoruba language. And usually you have to be an older person, to speak that kind of language, because it's for people who are like 60s and above. It's not literally like the trendy language. It's the language those um, our grandmas and grandpas speak in the village, right? I speak it. It's called Ijebu. I understand it very well. And so those those kind of stuff give me that pleasure and courage to want to step forward and interpret some classics in my language, and not only in my language. We're talking about Africa. Africa is broad in general. There's also Swahili, and there's also the Chi language in Ghana. And so I'm hoping to also step outside of my language to be able to also translate in other African languages as well.
Where can people find, you have performances coming up, and I wanted to find a segue for that. Never mind my segue. You have concerts coming up. Where can they come and hear you coming up recently?
So I do have a free concert coming up March 8th at the city of Santa Monica. The city actually is sponsoring me to do a free classical concert for Santa Monica residents. And one of the things I'm doing in Los Angeles, especially in the Los Angeles County and areas, is to bring classical music and make it affordable and within reach to residents of the Los Angeles County. And so I work with council members and mayors to be able to do this. So this is one of such endeavor. It will be in Santa Monica, and it's at the Miles Memorial Playhouse. This coming
Miles Memorial. If you don't mind, please repeat that again.
Miles Memorial Playhouse in Santa Monica.
The Miles Memorial Playhouse in Santa Monica.
Yes, and it's March 8th, and it's a beautiful venue. It's been shut down since COVID, so my event is the first, the first major event since they've been shut down, and so they're gradually reopening, and I take pride in that. I'm excited, and it's free, and so it's an evening of music, and I'm going to be joined by 3 friends of mine who are wonderful and amazing musicians. So all of the details are on my Instagram page, which is at Yoruba Siren, YORUBA Siren, SIREN. That's my.
And also, and please give out the site for the.
And I have my black tie concert coming up.
That's it. Yes.
That's April 20th.
I'm going. I can't wait.
You're going. You're coming. It's a benefit concert. It's tied into my charity, and with this we're hoping to raise money for an orphanage in Zambia. So part of the proceeds would support a Zambian orphanage, and that's April 20th at the BMW of Beverly Hills.
Zambia is extremely important to me. I want to shout out to Peter Kushi Kasungo, who is my little brother I call, who's in Zambia. And so we have a great affinity for that. Please, audience of Maker's Bar, please check her out. She and I are going to be back here. I tried to get her to sing today, but we want to treasure her voice. And she and I have some.
Well, maybe. Maybe a line or two might happen.
That would be our goal. What I'd like to be able to do with our time restraints today, I'd like you to be able to please. This woman is phenomenal. So today you got to see her youthful side, but I want to say, in hearing her voice and knowing how it touched me, aside from my affinity for opera and soprano and classical singers, her heart and her goals and her aspirations for her artistry are something to behold. You would not be regretful for it. We are extremely pleased and honored to have Abby with us today, as we call her friends, Abby. But but please check out her site and her information, and do know that we are coming back after the event that I've attended, because we like to have her in her full recollection of this past event and giving us some more information. We are absolutely pleased that you've joined us today.
Thank you so very much. I'm honored and
It's
humbled.
It's our pleasure. We can't say enough. I can't say enough about how I've enjoyed having met you and our spirits connecting. And if it weren't for the time restraints today, we would even be able to do more. But what I'd like us to be able to do is continue this conversation. I'm going to be in attendance. I give a full review. And then the day or the next days, as her schedule permits, she is an international diva classical singer, by the way. That to let you know how much I've enjoyed it. Abby, thank you so much for joining us today. We are extremely pleased with the Megastore audience. Please do know we adore you, and we're so pleased that you chose to share with us. Hey guys, you don't know, an opera singer like her, when you see her picture for the thumbnail, when you see some of her interviews, you're going to say, "Oh my gosh, Seth Guru had her in Maker's Bar." The treat is truly to have a singer of her caliber. We are extremely honored to have her with us today. Abby, we are so thankful. We are looking forward to all the great things. Please, thank you very much. Where can people get in contact with you to hear your music and to get in touch with you?
My website, www.abiodunkoya.com. So it's simply my first name, last name.com. And you can go to under contact us, and my team and my management, they will be willing to answer any questions or inquiries anyone may have. And also follow me on social media at Yoruba Siren.
You guys got to check out her Instagram. Check out her Instagram. I don't want to interrupt her. I don't want to interrupt her.
No. It's fine. No, it's the excitement. YORUBASIREN. Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
Yoruba
Ladies and
Siren.
gentlemen, this is a diva that I adore, and her warmth and her spirit. And I fanned out. I definitely fanned out when she told me she did opera. I had to fan out. I want you to press like. I want you to share and subscribe. This is a truly gifted voice that we all should be paying attention to. Abiodun, I thank you for sharing your time with us. I know your schedule is busy. Today's our busy day as well, but in more than anything, I am looking forward to our part 2. Thank you for sharing time and space with us.
Of course. I can't wait. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure. It's absolutely my pleasure. As I always end in all my broadcasts, the Levolution is the revolution that we want. In today's times, Maker's Bar is trying to be that place where we bring you beautiful talents like this beautiful lady here. I have had the pleasure of meeting some divas. This is one of the divas that's in my heart. She is a beautiful singer and an adorable, warm spirit, and we're so glad to have her join us with our audience today. Levolution is the revolution that you want. We love you, dear family. Maker's Bar thanks you for helping us create 1 million leaders today for tomorrow. I'm your boy, Seth Garu Baxter. Here's Maker's Bar. Peace and good luck, people. Abby, I'm looking forward to talking to you afterward.
Likewise.
Thank you so much, my sweetheart.
Thank you.
Good day, good people. Love and blessings.